In a world where power dictated fate and even legends could be crushed in an instant, a single name had begun to spread quietly yet irresistibly, like a storm gathering beyond the horizon. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Wei Wuya's eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke, his voice low and probing. We were at a disadvantage. Even you believe that to be true. What are you implying? Master Sunreach exclaimed, his brows knitting together. Don't tell me you and Concord truly couldn't defeat that Han brat. You overestimate me, Brother Sunreach. Wei Wuya's expression remained stiff, almost lifeless. Even after we joined forces, we managed to hold on only briefly before we were utterly crushed. That's impossible. Master Sunreach shook his head vehemently, disbelief etched across his face. No matter how formidable that Han brat is, he's merely a newly advanced, late-nascent soul cultivator. At best, he might slightly surpass one of us in combat strength. But for the two of you together to be defeated, a flicker of fear passed through Wei Wuya's eyes. I take no pride in admitting that Concord and I were no match for a newly risen great cultivator. Do you truly think I would lie about such a thing? Laugh at me if you wish, but I will say this, that man's power is unfathomable. On the surface, it seemed we suffered only a narrow defeat, yet he hadn't even begun to reveal his full strength. I could feel it. Had he wished, he could have ended both Concord and me on the spot. Master Sunreach froze where he stood as though struck by an unseen force. If you doubt me, Wei Wuya continued with a cold, faint smile, you're welcome to visit the Drifting Cloud sect and test him yourself. After all, you've come all this way from the Great Truth sect. I assume that was your intention from the start. A subtle shift crossed Master Sunreach's expression, but he offered no denial. Silence was answer enough. If I were you, I would spare myself the humiliation, Wei Wuya said calmly. My lifespan is nearing its end, so his strength is of no consequence to me. But you and old Devil Concord still have many years ahead of you. I would advise you do not provoke that man. What? You're nearing the end of your lifespan, Brother Wei. Master Sunreach faltered, shock overtaking his features. Indeed, I reached the late nascent soul stage over 2 centuries before you did. It is only natural I depart first. It will likely happen within the next few years. A trace of weariness crept into Wei Wuya's gaze. You and Concord still have time. Perhaps there remains a chance for you to ascend to the deity transformation stage. Brother Wei, you... Master Sunreach began, but the words caught in his throat. His expression grew complicated, torn between disbelief and unease. No matter how powerful we become, Wei Wuya said softly, without attaining the great Tao, all things must come to an end. Brother Sunreach, we have known each other for many years. Let me offer you one final piece of advice. Do not involve yourself in the affairs of the Heavenly South region. Focus solely on your cultivation. Think of nothing else. He paused, a faint bitterness surfacing. Do not become like me, a foolish old man waiting for death's embrace. After I pass, even if you and Concord join forces, you will still be no match for that Han brat. In that case, you may as well relinquish the title of the #1 sect in the Heavenly South region and bury all grudges. Prosperity and decline are both natural cycles for any sect. If you step back now, I believe that Han brat will not pursue you further. You can then devote yourselves entirely to breaking through to the deity transformation stage. Thank you for your guidance, Brother Wei, Master Sunreach said quietly. I will consider your words carefully. Wei Wuya's sincerity was unmistakable. Even Master Sunreach found himself wavering. I have said all that needs to be said. Whether you heed it is up to you. Wei Wuya cupped his fist in farewell. Before Master Sunreach could respond, he had already turned into a streak of light, flying back toward the 7 Spirit Islands. Master Sunreach remained where he stood, lost in thought. Only after a long while did he let out a faint sigh. His figure then transformed into a streak of white light shooting into the horizon toward the state of Shi. He still wished to see Han Li's power with his own eyes before making his decision. If the man truly was as terrifying as the rumors claimed, he would immediately follow Wei Wuya's advice and enter seclusion, striving for the deity transformation stage. A month later, news spread like wildfire throughout the Heavenly South region. It was said that Master Sunreach had personally visited the drifting cloud sect, only to depart after less than half a day. Upon returning to the Great Truth sect, he announced without warning that he would enter seclusion indefinitely. Speculation surged across the region, yet even the dullest cultivators could piece together the truth. The Grand Elder of the Great Truth sect had not prevailed against Han Li. Otherwise, why would he retreat so abruptly and display such caution? From that moment on, Han Li's reputation as the foremost cultivator of the Heavenly South region was firmly established. The drifting cloud sect's influence expanded rapidly. Within mere months, they had taken control of most of the state of Xi. Other sects either submitted or fled, relocating their foundations to distant lands. The Ancient Sword Sect and the 100 Possibilities Pavilion, both located within the Dream Cloud Mountains, were spared from annexation. They too experienced growth, but in truth, they had become satellites orbiting the immense presence of the drifting cloud sect, living in a strange blend of dependence and unease. Deep within the interconnected peaks of the drifting cloud sect, inside a secluded cave abode, Han Li sat cross-legged in a hidden chamber, his eyes tightly shut. A massive formation was etched into the ground beneath him. At its center hovered a pair of pristine white wings. Silver arcs of lightning crackled across their surface, while azure and white flames enveloped them, swirling endlessly. With each revolution, dense layers of ancient runes surfaced across the wings like ripples in a boundless sea. Han Li's hands formed intricate seals, activating the formation. Pillars of azure-white fire surged upward, refining the wings without pause. After an indeterminate stretch of time, he lowered his hands and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze settled on the wings, which turned lazily within the flames. With a single flick of his finger, he sent a stream of power toward them. The wings trembled violently. Azure light burst forth from within, and the silver lightning roared, filling the chamber with thunderous resonance. Yet Han Li's brows remained faintly furrowed. After a moment of silence, he opened his mouth and expelled a small azure cauldron. It spun once in midair before landing gently before him. "What is it now?" A delicate voice drifted from within. Though soft and youthful, it carried a strangely mature, almost world-weary tone. "I've already explained the refinement method to you more than once." Han Li's expression darkened. "I followed your instructions precisely and fused the Kunpeng feather into the thunderstorm wings. They can now wield wind-attribute spiritual power, but their strength is no greater than that of a replica spirit. Treasure like the Triflame fan, this falls far short of what you promised. Were you deceiving me? That's impossible." Spiritual light shimmered atop the cauldron, and a small humanoid figure emerged, the projection of the endless sky beast. "The Kunpeng feather is a supreme treasure. How could its enhancement be so negligible? Let me examine the wings." Without a word, Han Li waved his hand. The thunderstorm wings shot forward in a streak of azure-white light, hovering above the child's head. The child stared upward, unblinking. His expression shifted subtly as he observed thoughts clearly racing. Only after a long while did he close his eyes in contemplation. When he opened them again, realization dawned. "I see the issue. This Kunpeng feather is far more difficult to refine than I anticipated. While it has been integrated into the wings, the power of the wind-based heavenly laws within it has not been fully harnessed. As a result, the wings only possess the strength of a replica spirit treasure. They are nowhere near the level of a divine spirit treasure. Then how do I draw out that power?" Han Li asked coldly. "You would need either to cultivate a wind attribute technique, which your current cultivation should allow, or obtain a top-grade wind attribute spirit stone." "I can do neither," Han Li replied without hesitation. "Then there is nothing I can do," the child said with a resigned sigh. "There may be other methods, but none are feasible in the human realm. Explaining them would be pointless." "Humph. So my refinement method was correct." "Your judgment was flawed," Han Li said. That does seem to be the case." The child finally looked somewhat embarrassed. A glint passed through Han Li's eyes, and his expression softened unexpectedly. Very well. I'm already satisfied that the thunderstorm wings can wield both wind and lightning. If they truly reached the level you described, I might not even be able to control them with my current strength. The child hesitated, suspicion flickering in his gaze. This human was not one to accept losses so easily. After a moment, the child spoke first. If you have conditions, state them. I can offer compensation for my misjudgment. Since you insist, Han Li said with a faint smile, I'll accept. The child rolled his eyes. Han Li tapped his storage pouch. A burst of azure light flashed and several peculiar objects appeared before him. A fist-sized lump of translucent viscous substance. 3 gleaming black crystals, 1 large, 2 small. A black and white bead. And a pitch-black eyeball no larger than a thumb. These are items I obtained by chance, Han Li said, gesturing toward them. Yet I cannot determine their uses. You are from a higher realm, you should possess greater knowledge. I would like your guidance. The child reached out, drawing 2 of the objects toward himself with an invisible force. A hint of surprise crossed his face. The others are nothing special. But these 2, even in the spirit realm, they are exceedingly rare. Han Li turned, only to find that the endless sky beast's gaze had already been drawn to the lump of transparent substance and the pitch-black eyeball. Do you recognize them? He asked. The small child turned toward him, a trace of bewilderment flickering in his eyes. Tell me first, how did you obtain these 2 items? Fellow Taoist Han, one was found within a fire cauldron that had been burning for an unknown number of years. Han Li replied calmly. The other is the 3rd eye of a 3-eyed demon beast. That explains it, just as I suspected. The child nodded faintly as though confirming a long-held assumption. He lifted the translucent mass first and said, This substance is known as fire spirit threads. It is an exceptional material used in refining fire-attributed armor, rare even in the spirit realm. Its original form is an even rarer type of yin-attribute ore. When subjected to intense heat over long periods, it melts and transforms into this state. Fire spirit threads. Han Li repeated, his gaze lingering on the substance. A peculiar expression crossed his face. No matter how he examined it, it bore no resemblance to anything resembling threads. Sensing his confusion, the child hesitated before adding, This is not its final form. It must be further refined by a cultivator proficient in fire attribute techniques before it can be drawn into true strands. That is beyond your current capabilities. He chuckled softly before continuing. Even in this state, it is already a rare treasure. It can be used directly as a material or refined into weapons. If forged into a weapon, its power would rival that of an ordinary flying sword. However, his brows furrowed slightly. Normally, fire spirit threads should be faint blue, yet this one is semi-transparent. It differs somewhat from what I remember. A thought flickered through Han Li's mind. His expression shifted subtly. I see. How long does it usually take for such a substance to form within flames? That is precisely why it is so rare, the child replied. At the very least, it requires over 100 years. At most, several centuries. The longer the process, the smaller the mass, but the greater its purity. I understand. A glimmer of realization passed through Han Li's eyes. Oh, have you thought of something? The child asked, curious. Nothing of note, Han Li replied with a faint smile, concealing his thoughts as he turned his attention to the black eyeball. Tell me about the other item. A shadow passed briefly over the child's face, but he chose not to press further. Instead, he turned to the eyeball, his tone growing more serious. This is no ordinary object. Even I find it rather enticing. Unfortunately, only my avatar has descended into this world, and its attributes do not align with mine. Even if I were to refine it, the benefits would be limited, and it might even damage my spiritual sense. Is it truly that remarkable? Han Li asked, a hint of skepticism surfacing. When he had slain the 3-eyed demon beast, he had sensed something unusual about the eye, but not to this extent. You know nothing, the child scoffed lightly. You've heard of heavenly true spirits, such as dragons and killins, have you not? Of course, Han Li replied. Though they no longer exist in our world, their legends are well known. Does this eye have some connection to them? Not directly, but close enough. The child's expression turned solemn. This is the third eye of the Kai Lai beast, the sworn enemy of dragons. In the spirit realm, it is known as the Law Destruction Eye. Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly. The Si Li beast possesses 3 heads and 5 tails, the child continued. Only the central head bears a single eye that is this eye. It is said that the beast rarely opens it, but when it does, it can tear through space itself and slay enemies with a single glance. He paused briefly before adding, of course this eye alone cannot replicate that full power. However, with the proper secret techniques, it can still unleash formidable abilities. It can directly attack opponents, see through most illusion techniques, and track movement. Even teleportation cannot evade its gaze. This is why cultivators who specialize in ocular techniques, such as the Heaven's Eye technique, would treasure this beyond measure. Han Li drew in a sharp breath. His gaze fixed upon the eyeball, his mind momentarily blank. If this truly was the Law Destruction Eye of a Si Li beast, then its value would rival that of the Golden Jade Tome. However, this eye is not entirely pure, the child continued, shaking his head lightly. The beast you slew was not a true Chai Li beast, but a descendant bearing only a trace of its bloodline. Moreover, you extracted the eye before it reached full maturity. He sighed faintly. I cannot decide whether to congratulate you on your fortune or lament your loss. What do you mean? Han Li asked. It is simple. If this were the eye of a fully mature Qi Li beast, you would never be able to refine it with your current cultivation. But because it is incomplete, you have a chance, though the resulting Law Destruction Eye will be far weaker. Furthermore, since it is not from a true Chai Li beast, its abilities will differ somewhat from the genuine version, so its power will be inferior. Han Li asked. Generally, yes, the child replied. But there are exceptions. In the spirit realm, the Scorching Heaven Demon, king of the 9 spirit mountains, inherited only a fraction of a fire Keelin's bloodline, yet the flames he wielded were so fierce that even true fire Killins feared them. He smiled faintly. Such cases are rare, but if I remember correctly, you intend to enter the spirit realm through a spatial node. In that case, you will need to refine this eye. Han Li's brows rose in surprise. Why? The Si Li beast cannot traverse realms as freely as the heaven-roaming Kunpeng or the Luomian beast. The child explained calmly. However, it possesses the ability to weaken the boundaries between realms. The extent of that weakening depends on the power of this eye. Han Li's heart stirred. This eye can truly do that? He asked. Heh. Once you refine it, you will know, the child chuckled. Why would I deceive you? Han Li fell silent, sinking into deep thought. The child did not disturb him, merely examining the 2 objects in his hands while waiting. When Han Li finally raised his head again, his expression had already returned to calm. For now, let us set those aside, he said. Do you recognize the remaining materials? The child glanced at him, a trace of surprise flickering in his eyes at how quickly Han Li had suppressed his thoughts. Still, he replied, those 3 crystals are dream separation crystals, somewhat rare but of limited use. They can only be used to create one-time treasures capable of casting illusion techniques. He shrugged lightly. Not particularly useful to most cultivators, though I once heard that a heavenly illusion sect in the spirit realm offered an enormous price for them before, abruptly withdrawing their offer. As for other uses, I do not know. They are too rare and their applications are poorly documented. He then turned to the black and white bead. As for this demon core, I cannot identify it. Its attributes are quite unusual. Can you describe the beast it came from? Han Li frowned slightly as he recalled the grotesque creature from the lake within Devilfall Valley, a writhing mass of decaying flesh. After hearing his description, the child pondered for a while before shaking his head. I've never encountered such a creature. Most likely a mutated demon beast. From your description, it was not particularly powerful, so its core is unlikely to be of great use. Perhaps Han Li murmured, but its ability to conceal its aura was remarkable. It may still be useful in refinement. He gestured, and the black and white core flew into his palm. As it spun gently above his hand, strands of black and white qi seeped out, distinct yet intertwined, forming a striking contrast. The child watched him for a moment, hesitating before finally speaking. "How about this? As compensation for my earlier misjudgment regarding your thunderstorm wings, I will provide you with the refinement methods for both the fire spirit threads and the law destruction eye. Whether you choose to refine them and whether you succeed will be entirely up to you." "Very well. We have an agreement." Han Li accepted without hesitation, as though he had anticipated this outcome all along. The child blinked momentarily, taken aback. A trace of gloom flickered across his face before his form wavered and vanished. The two items in his hands fell downward, but before they could drop far, Han Li reached out and caught them effortlessly. At the same instant, the endless sky beast's voice echoed directly within his mind, transmitting the detailed refinement methods. Han Li's heart stirred. He immediately sat down, closed his eyes, and focused intently. Half a day later, several Foundation establishment stage stewards were gathered within a pavilion at the foot of a mountain in the drifting cloud sect. They were sorting through materials from a storage pouch when, without warning, a streak of red light shot into the pavilion. It circled once through the air before landing in the hand of a blue-robed cultivator. The red light condensed into a flickering ball of flame from which a jade slip and a badge tumbled out. The steward caught them. The moment his eyes fell upon the badge, his expression changed drastically. Without hesitation, he thrust both hands into the fireball. A loud explosion rang out as the flames vanished, but the gravity on his face only deepened. He glanced down at the badge, then at the bewildered expressions on the surrounding stewards. A wry smile tugged at his lips. "It's a voice transmission talisman from the Grand Elder," he said. "We're to gather all the materials listed in this jade slip within 3 days. Judging from the contents, the Grand Elder intends to use them for tool refinement, and they're far from common. Senior Marshal Brothers, it seems, will have to set aside everything else and carry out his orders first." A ripple of surprise passed through the group. If this is a command from the Grand Elder, then it must take priority, an elderly man in grey robes said decisively. "Check the jade slip immediately. If we have the materials, retrieve them from storage at once. If not, go to the Ancient Sword Sect and the 100 Possibilities Pavilion without delay. The cultivators of the 100 Possibilities Pavilion are particularly skilled in tool refinement. They should have what we lack. For the Grand Elder to give us only 3 days. This matter must be urgent." The others nodded solemnly. After quickly assigning responsibilities among themselves, the Foundation establishment stewards mounted their respective treasures and shot out of the pavilion in streaks of light scattering in all directions to gather the required materials. 3 days later, the blue-robed cultivator arrived at the interconnected peaks, a bulging storage pouch clutched in his hands. As expected, the surrounding restriction barred his entry. He released a voice transmission talisman, then stood quietly in place, holding the pouch with both hands in a posture of utmost respect. After roughly 10 minutes, the mist formed by the restriction began to churn and swirl violently. In the next instant, a streak of azure light burst forth from within, a flash of spiritual light, and the storage pouch vanished from his grasp. The cultivator's heart stirred. He hastily bowed several times toward the mist before turning and departing atop his treasure. Silence returned to the peaks as though nothing had ever occurred. Within his cave abode, Han Li put away his humanoid puppet before extending his spiritual sense into the storage pouch, now resting in his hand. A short while later, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. "Not bad," he murmured. "They managed to gather everything. These sect stewards are quite capable. You are the Grand Elder of the Drifting Cloud Sect." The small child's voice rang out as his figure reappeared. "They would not dare delay your orders. Still, I am somewhat surprised you even requested the materials needed to refine the fire spirit threads. Have you forgotten that you do not cultivate fire-attributed techniques? I'm well aware, Hun Li replied calmly. He patted his storage pouch and a small crimson cauldron flew out hovering before him. But I possess something that can refine them in my stead. This cauldron was the very vessel that gave rise to those threads. It is only fitting that it be used now. The child narrowed his eyes as he examined the cauldron, offering no comment, though he gave a faint approving nod. A slight smile touched Han Li's lips as he overturned the storage pouch. A flash of white light burst forth, and more than a dozen jade and wooden boxes of varying sizes appeared upon the ground. Han Li raised a hand and pointed toward the cauldron. With a soft hum, its crimson lid lifted into the air. In the next instant, a surge of scarlet flames erupted from within with a thunderous roar. The flames twisted and coalesced, transforming into over a dozen fiery crimson ravens that circled the cauldron. "The flames have manifested a spirit," the child murmured. "Though the treasure itself is not especially powerful, its fire attribute essence is pure. It is indeed suitable for refining the fire spirit threads on your behalf. However, these fire ravens were not born of your magic power. You will find them difficult to control. You must remain fully focused. The slightest lapse could ruin everything." "Rest assured, fellow Taoist," Endless Sky Han Li replied with a faint chuckle. "Patience is one thing I do not lack." The child said no more. Han Li formed a hand seal, sending a stream of incantation power into the cauldron. It began to spin, swelling rapidly until it grew several times its original size. Only then did Han Li sweep his sleeve. A semi-transparent mass shot forth, vanishing into the flames. A thunderous boom resounded within the cauldron. Crimson fire surged, licking its surface as the translucent substance became faintly visible amidst the inferno. Several fire ravens darted forward, driving it toward the center of the flames. Han Li's expression sharpened. His fingers flickered like lightning, releasing over a dozen incantation seals of varying colors, each striking the fire ravens. The ravens shrieked and unleashed torrents of flame from their beaks, engulfing the substance in a frenzy of fire. Yet instead of resisting, the substance seemed to absorb the flames. Its surface gradually reddened, its form beginning to shift. Han Li gestured toward one of the jade boxes. The lid flew open, revealing a paste-like blue substance within. With a single point of his finger, the substance shot into the cauldron. Upon contact with the flames, it liquefied instantly and was absorbed into the mass. A flicker of delight crossed Han Li's eyes. He withdrew his hand seals. Immediately, strands of azure threads shot from his fingertips into the blazing fire. The flames surged several feet higher, and a deep, resonant cry echoed from within the cauldron. Han Li's expression remained unwavering, focused, intent, and utterly still. 2 months later, a streak of azure light shot through the sky toward the main peak of the drifting cloud sect. It vanished in a flash before the great hall at the mountain's base, revealing Han Li's figure. The disciples guarding the hall were instantly overwhelmed by his presence. They hurried forward, bowing deeply in unison. Han Li merely waved a hand. With a single step, his figure blurred and vanished. In the next instant, he reappeared within the hall. The disciples stared in astonishment. Though he had taken only a few steps, his figure had already disappeared from sight entirely. Their awe deepened into reverence. Inside the hall, Luluo was pacing anxiously. At the sight of Han Li, relief flooded his face. "You finally emerged from seclusion, Junior Marshal Brother Han. It seems you've received my message." Han Li smiled faintly. His figure flickered as he took a seat. "Your message mentioned that Marshal Ni Song and the others have gone missing in Devil Fall Valley. This matter involves Peeling and my in-name disciple, so I came at once to hear the details." Luluo's expression darkened. "It is indeed suspicious. It has been half a year since they entered Devil Fall Valley. They should have returned long ago. Yet my men found no trace of them leaving. Some cultivators saw them enter and others encountered them in the outer valley. But after that they vanished." He hesitated. "I suspect they may have entered the inner valley and encountered danger. Han Li finished calmly. His expression revealed nothing. Exactly. Lu Luo nodded. The inner valley remains perilous. But you are now a great cultivator and you have explored it before. It should not pose a problem for you to search for them, correct? The spatial rifts there are no threat to me so long as I avoid the most dangerous regions. Han Lai replied without hesitation. My refinement has just concluded. I will make the trip. Good. Luluo exhaled softly. But remember, you are now the pillar of our sect. Your safety comes first. Han Li smiled lightly. Rest assured. There is no one in the heavenly south region capable of harming me. I will act with caution. Yet even as he spoke, his thoughts drifted to the sovereign devil corpse he had lost years ago within Devilfall Valley. Could it be connected? The thought surfaced without warning. Though inwardly puzzled, his expression remained composed. After exchanging a few more words, he departed unhurriedly. 2 days later, after visiting Nangongwan, Han Li left the sect alone, heading toward Devilfall Valley. Over a month later, 3 streaks of light tore across the sky above Chang Province, in the state of Dongyu. They circled a nameless mountain before descending, revealing 3 burly men. Each was tall and broad-shouldered, with 2 cross-shaped treasures of differing colors strapped to their backs. Their features bore an uncanny resemblance. They were clearly triplets. Atop the mountain summit, 3 figures were already waiting: an elderly man, a middle-aged scholar, and a young man with a faint smile. Haha. Brother Ho, I hope we didn't keep you waiting. The eldest of the trio laughed heartily. We had some matters to attend to on the way here. You must forgive the delay. His gaze swept across the others and paused. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes. The elderly man and the scholar stood respectfully on either side of the young man, their postures deferential. Even upon hearing his greeting, the elder merely smiled faintly, offering no further exchange. This immediately struck the 3 men as strange. They extended their spiritual senses toward the young man, and in that instant shock surged through their hearts. His form was like mist, illusory, insubstantial. Their senses slid over him without finding anything solid, as though grasping at smoke. They could not discern his cultivation at all. The expressions of the 3 men changed drastically.